Hey, what's going on, y'all? Jay from JSFILMZ. Now, I've been getting a lot of requests for an NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima beginner tutorial. Well, last week, they just came out with a new version, so heck, this is probably the best time to do a tutorial. So with that being said, without further ado, enjoy this video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is download NVIDIA Omniverse. So I simply went to Google and just search NVIDIA Omniverse, and we'll just click on the first link here. And then I'm going to click Get Started. All right, so you're going to see two versions. You're going to see the individual version and then the enterprise version. In our case here, for this tutorial, we're going to be downloading the free version, which is the individual. So click on Download. And now I'm just going to fill this information out. Now, obviously, I've done this already, but since this is your first time, go ahead and register so you can download this software. So once you're done filling that out, you're going to see this message, and go ahead and download this for Windows. Launch it. All right, so here's our NVIDIA Omniverse launcher. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and install Machinima. So I'm going to go to the Exchange right here, and then we're going to look for NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima, which is going to be this one right here on the right side. Okay, so as you can see, we are still in beta 2022.3.0. I was actually waiting for this version to come out before I made this tutorial. So here we go. I was released January 10. So let's go ahead and install that. And that's going to download our Machinima. It's about 5 gigs. Okay, so once that's done downloading, we're going to go to our nucleus and we're going to install our local host folder. So to do that, I'm going to say add server and I'm just going to type in local host. Click next. Okay, and after that, go ahead and create an account. But since I already have one, I'm just going to go ahead and input my username and password right here. Okay, so once you're finished creating an account, make sure you write that information because you are going to need it every time you open NVIDIA Omniverse whenever you're logging into your local host server, okay? All right, so once we're done, you're going to see that we have my local host, JSFILMZ. But basically what this is going to do is give you access to the NVIDIA server so you can access their files. So if I click on NVIDIA right here, you're going to see that we have a lot of stuff in here. We have assets, we have some demos, we have a library. There's a lot of stuff that you can check out. Now, additionally, you can access this straight in NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima, so you don't necessarily have to browse in here. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and go to our library. And now, as you can see, we have the Machinima beta. And then what we'll do now is just click on Launch. Okay, so here we are in NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima. First things first, what I'm going to do is just go over the UI a little bit and kind of show you where everything is. Right here on top is going to be your main menu toolbar. So you have the File, Edit. If you want to edit the preferences, you're going to find that right here. And that's actually going to populate at the bottom right corner right here in this little window. It's going to be docked in there, which is kind of nice. To edit, I don't really do too much in here except for like capture a screenshot or change the preferences. Majority of these shortcuts I'm pretty familiar with, like undo and redo and repeat or duplicate or things like that. And then in the animation toolbar, we're going to see the audio to face, audio to gesture, and constraints. Now, this is one of the reasons why I use NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima versus NVIDIA Omniverse Create, because as far as I know, Create does not have constraints, so that's pretty important right here. We also have the animation graph, curve editor. We have the post estimation, which I'm going to be showing you all here briefly. We have retargeting. You can also open up the sequencer, but as you can see with Machinima, it's already open by default right here. All right, so moving on to create, this is where you're going to find everything. Cameras, lights, mesh, physics, everything that you need to create is going to be right here. Okay, so moving on to window, we have a couple of options here that I go to. You can actually do 2 viewports now, which is nice. Additionally, whenever you're rendering, you're going to find the rendering options right here in the window rendering. If you want to enable some extensions, this is where you're going to find that. You click on this, and after that, you can actually search for extension right here, and you just have to enable it and then close it. And sometimes you might have to restart. All right, so next up is the layout. Now, this is going to give you some shortcuts as far as, getting a specific layout. Say if you want your animation layout, that's going to be that. And if you want rendering one, you can also do that. But for me, I actually use just a regular layout. I just got used to that, so I'll just go ahead and reset it. All right, the next one is going to be the tools. To be honest, I don't really hang out in this too much. But you can see we're going to have some animation processing. I think this is maybe some filters that you can use. And then the next one is going to be your help button. You can read the Omni UI docs or about or reference guide. They actually have a pretty good documentation. They update it almost every time they come out with a new release, which is always helpful. All right, so the next thing we're going to go over is just the left toolbar. This is really just your select to move kind of toolbar. You should be used to this if you work with any 3D softwares before. You have your scale, rotation, transform, selection. You also have snap and play. Additionally, you can also find the paint button right here, which again, I'll go over here shortly. Lastly, you're going to find a shortcut to the maximum post estimation, which we're going to be talking about here as well. All right, so over here, you're going to see your sequencer. It's kind of like your timeline. You can change your frames per second here, and you can actually change the current frame right here by just typing whatever number. And on the right side of that, you're going to see that we have the movie capture as well. You can also access that right here. Additionally, you can access that in the windows as well. So I'll go ahead and close that. Okay, so really important note right here. Sometimes whenever you open Machinima, this is set to 0. Just make sure that you have this at least like 1200, so you actually have a timeline, because if not, if you press play, you're not going to be able to play that timeline because your total frames is right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the right side. This is our content window, browser, whatever you want to call it. You're going to see some free assets that you can get. So actually a lot of them, and this library is still growing. And additionally, if you go to the right of that, this is going to be your content browser. We're going to have access to your computer. And additionally, this is where you're going to have access to that local host server that we added. All right, so to do that, I'm going to go ahead and double click this, and this is going to open up a browser for us to log in. Okay, so I've successfully logged in. I can go ahead and minimize that. And you're going to see that now we have access to the same folders that we had in the nucleus, which is pretty nice. Moving on to the right, we're going to have some materials presets. There's actually a lot now. We have 3,542 materials. You can actually have some reshade effects as well, which I necessarily don't mess around with too much. But if you're into that kind of stuff, you have access to that here. All right, next is going to be our environments. This is where you can get some nice preloaded environments for your scenes. So for example, I can just double click the sunflowers. That's going to go ahead and load it up. So this is kind of nice. As you can see, it's already 360, already applied it to a dome. All right, and additionally with that, if you want to change this with your own, you can also just go to looks right here in your outliner, and you go to shader. You can actually change where that file is coming from, and you can just load up whatever file you have. So that's just really quick HDRI tip for you there. Next, we're going to go to samples. Again, here's just some project samples that you can kind of mess around with. Mess around with this astronaut. This looks pretty good. I got some environment as well. They also have some simulations like fire and things like that. So the next tab is going to be your asset stores. This is in beta. So as you can see right here, you can actually access some Relusion Actor Core Motion. Additionally, you can have access to Sketchfab stuff. Now, some of these assets are free, but some you're going to have to pay for. So like this one right here is $29. This one right here is $3. So keep that in mind whenever you're looking in here. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the bottom right corner, I guess. We have the frames per second here as well. You can change it. Additionally, you can change your frame right here, frame time. And you can press your play button, your rewind button, or your pause button, or your loop button right here. All right, so on the bottom right corner, you're going to see your keyframe. And you have your automatic keyframe right here, so you can toggle that on and off. And then right next to that, you're going to see the movie capture icon as well, which is going to launch the movie capture tool. All right, so let's go ahead and move up from that. Now this right here, I was kind of already clicking around. This is going to be your property window or your property tab. Basically, if you select something in your level editor, you're going to get some more information about that object in here. Pretty useful. And then right above that, you're going to find your stage. This is pretty much a list view of all of your assets inside your level. So as you can see, we have this sky. It's a dome light, which actually contains our HDRI picture. But whenever you have a big scene and you want to look for things, just use this right here. So it looks like we already have audio to gesture plugged in here, this is pretty cool. It pretty much takes your audio and it's going to create a body animation from your audio. I've made tutorials about this on the channel. I'll put the link in the description below. Additionally, this is going to be the post estimation. It's going to take a video file and it's going to create some body animation for your video file, which again, we'll go over here shortly. And again, we have the render settings right here. You can change your renderer to real-time, IRA, or path tracing. whenever you change the setting here, say if we change it to path tracing, that's going to change the setting right below that. So this is where you're going to find your rendering information, your lighting. You can add fog in here and some post-processing if you want to, like motion blur or color correction or tone mapping. So let's go ahead and move into our level viewport here. Starting in the top left corner, you're going to see this icon. This is just going to let you turn on and turn off your grid, increase the grid width if you want to see it better. You can use your selection, you can change the color, just viewport stuff really. And you also have access to a preference here if you want to edit it. Right next to that is going to be your viewer. So if you want to look at your scene in real time, path tracing IRA or Pixar Storm, you can. Additionally, if you want to change it to wireframe, you can also. Sometimes I do like to work in camera light. Whenever I have really dark scenes, I work in this camera light. This is similar to Unreal Engine's unlit mode. This is going to give you a better view of your scene without the lights. Additionally, you have access to render options here as well if you want to access that from here. Okay, so right beside that, you're going to have the eye icon. It looks like an eye, but this is where you can kind of show or hide things like the FPS if you don't want it showing. But for me, I leave everything by default. I want to know the FPS, my graphics card, and so on and so forth. On the right side, this is going to be your view option. So we have the cameras. I don't have any cameras in here, but you can change your perspective to top, front, right, similar to like 3D packages. But for me, I like to work in perspective. So on the right side of that, you're going to see your camera options. You have options to change your focal length, your focal distance, your autofocus, your aperture, auto exposure right here, and then your ISO. And on the right side of that, you're going to see that we have an option to change our light in the level. So if you want to, you can turn the lights off. You just want the camera light or you want everything on. Okay. This is the same as the viewport that I told you right here, camera light. You can also find that right here. Let's go ahead and talk about movement in the level editor. All right, so to move the camera, go ahead and hold your right-click mouse button and just move your mouse around. Additionally, if you want to move, you can actually use WASD as well. By holding your right-click mouse button and WASD, you can move around your level. Additionally, if you want to increase or decrease your mouse speed or your movement speed, you can use your mouse scroll up or down. You see right here, I'm scrolling down and it's really slowing down my movement. But if you want it faster, you can go ahead and zoom up. And that's pretty much how you move around in a level editor. All right, so what we're going to be going over next is going to be the paint tool. So again, we're going to go to the left side of our UI and click on the paint tool or just Control B on your keyboard. And that's going to open up another window here on the right, which is the paint window. And I'll go ahead and drop this down so you can see everything. I can actually scroll a little bit more down so you can see more settings. Now by default, this is going to select 3 different types of vegetation for you already. And really all we have to do is click on the paint button right here, make sure it's highlighted. And we can actually start painting on our level here so you can see. And additionally, like I said, the NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima comes with a lot more assets. So if I go down to NVIDIA assets, go to vegetation, we can actually add more assets in there. So I'll just remove the other 2 and just paint the tree now. And if I go down, we can actually change the scale of those trees so it's a little bit random. So I can maybe have a 0.5 like that. And now if I start clicking, you're going to see the trees are going to start populating in different heights. Additionally, if you don't want to paint a lot, you can just say flood, and this is going to create a lot of assets on your level. And again, this tool right here is super helpful whenever you're creating landscapes in NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing you next is how you can import characters in NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima. So what I'll do is I'll go to samples and then I'm going to open up the astronaut. And I'm just going to delete our astronaut right here. So if I click on the astronaut and then go to the right side in our stage, I'm going to scroll all the way up until I see the astronaut right here, the X form. And then what I'll do is I'll press delete. Next, I'll go ahead and save it. So file, save as, and then I'm going to go to users, JSFILMZ, and I can just save this here. And I'll just save this empty project right here. Next, what we'll do is we'll go to the NVIDIA Assets browser. And I'm going to scroll down to Shadow Warrior 3 because there is a really cool character that I want to use right here named Lo Wang. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that to the level, and that's going to load up in a second. All right, so Lo Wang is now loaded up, and I'm going to press E on my keyboard so I can go ahead and rotate him so that he is facing the camera. Additionally, I could have just changed the rotation here on the right side. So I'll go ahead and Control Z that to undo that change. And then on the Z axis, I'm just going to say 0 for this. And that's going to go ahead and move him in front of the camera. And again, I'm just going to maneuver using the WASD. Now, currently our editor is running pretty slow, and that's because I am in path traced mode. So what I'll do is I'm going to go switch over to real time so that we can get a little bit more frames per second back. So you can see right here, we're moving a lot smoother. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to be using the Maxine post estimation so we can put some animation in this character. So to do that, what we're going to do is go to the left side, left panel right here, and make sure that the body icon or the post estimation icon is clicked on. It looks like it is. So I'm going to go to my right side now. And now you're going to see this window called Post Estimation. And like I said earlier, what this is going to allow us to do is get body animation from 2D video, as you can see here. In the Post Estimation window, we're going to see two options. We have a Stream Live camera, meaning you can actually use your webcam or DSLR to record the video or import a video source. In this tutorial, we're just going to go ahead and use the video source. And we'll select this folder right here, and I just have a footage that I recorded outside and have it in my downloads file. And as you can see, it's going to be loaded up right here. Let's make this bigger. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the retargeting window and then say target skeleton is going to be Lo Wang root. And on the right side of that, we're going to go ahead and click this and say auto retarget. Again, I'm going to scroll down. And as you can see, we have 1,177 frames. I'm just going to go ahead and shrink this to like 240. And then what I'll do is I'll scroll down again. And let's make sure that this video is playing. This video is playing now, so that's good. Go ahead and rewind it. And the next thing we're going to do is click on Start Engine. And then I'm going to go press play. Now you're going to see that Lo Wang is now animating. And then what we'll do next is just click Calibrate so that he's going to go back up to the floor. Now what's cool about this is if I keep on going down, we can change a couple of settings. So you can see his feet's kind of messed up. So what I'm going to do is change the lower body pose to just standing. And this is pretty much going to make him stay in place. So again, I'm going to press play and then just say calibrate again. That's going to bring him back to the floor. And as you can see, he is now animating just like Taylor is animating on the right. Now, this is pretty useful for just simple, talking kind of presentation kind of animation. It's pretty quick. And you can use your camera or your phone or your webcam to use it. All right, so what we'll do next is actually record this animation so that we can use it in a timeline or a sequencer. To do that is fairly easy. First things first, let me go ahead and stop the engine. And I'm going to scroll all the way down. And then under the Recorder tab, I'm just going to say Record. And now this is going to record 240 frames of animation. And that's what we're going to be able to use in the sequencer. Once that's done recording, we can go back to the right side and copy this folder so we can actually access that animation. Next, what I'll do is go to the content browser and then copy and paste it here. And after that, you're going to see that animation recorded, which is root_take_0. So what we'll do next is go back to the stage, select our character here, click on Lo Wang, and then drag and drop Lo Wang to our sequencer. And again, as you can see right here in the bottom right corner, this is set to 0, which is not good. So I'm going to go ahead and say 500 so we can actually play back. So what I'm doing now is holding left control on my keyboard and just scrolling out so you can extend our timeline here. Once that's done, I will take that animation that we recorded using the post estimation and just simply drag it to Lo Wang's sequencer. And now if I press play, you're now going to see Lo Wang animating just like the video in the post estimation. When that's done, I will go ahead and save, file, save, and I'm just going to go ahead and overwrite that file. Okay, so the next order of business is we're going to be taking a look at all the lighting options inside NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima. And to do that, I'm going to go to my main toolbar and go to Create, go to Light, and I guess we can start with a cylinder light. What I'll do is I'll just move it to the left and just kind of move it up like so. All right, so what we're looking at right now is the cylinder light. And again, if I scroll up right here and bring up our properties tab, we're going to be able to expose all the options for this light right here. So as you can see, you can change the RGB color. Additionally, you can change the color by just selecting the actual color right here. You can also enable the temperature if you want to edit the temperature like that. You can increase or decrease intensity, mess with exposure. Again, you can change the length of it if you want it shorter or longer. Additionally, you can decrease or increase the radius of that light, which is kind of cool. Okay, so what I'll do next is I'll just delete that. And again, we'll create a new light and we'll look at the disk light now. And it's going to be spawning on the floor again. And I'll just bring it up and I'll just put it to the right side this time. All right, so this one, I can kind of think about it kind of like a disk or so, or like a softbox, like a circular softbox. It pretty much has all the same settings as our tube lighting. If I go to the right, you can change the color, temperature, exposure. You can change the radius, so on and so forth. Go ahead and delete that. So let's go create a new light, and we'll go to distant light. So the distant light is like the sun. So you can see it's coming from the top and it's pretty bright. But one difference is that this thing has an option for angle. It lets you change the angle of the sun, which is pretty cool if you need to soften the shadows a little. We'll move on to the next light, which is going to be the dome light. Now, we already looked at the dome light earlier when I was messing around with the environments, but pretty much think of it as like an HDRI dome. We can change the texture file right here, and we can again change the exposure values or the color of that HDRI. Next light we're going to take a look at is the rectangular light. Now, this is probably one of the most lights that I use because it mimics like a 4x4 or like a softbox, like a square softbox. I usually use this light as key light because, again, it's a pretty nice size for a key light or so. It's already throwing some pretty nice soft shadows there. If I change this to path tracing, you're going to see that that looks pretty good. I mean, the difference between real-time and path is just amazing. And on the right side of that, let's take a look at the settings for the rec light. I'll scroll down right here. Again, it's pretty similar to everything else, but you do have the option to change the height and the width of your light. So if I want this a little bit kind of like a Kino flow or something, I can make that a little bit skinnier. Now, one of the cool things I like about the rec light is you can actually import textures in it similar to the Sky Dome. So what that means, you can actually download an HDRI online of a softbox or an umbrella and just go ahead and directly import it in here, which is pretty sweet. This is probably my favorite light right here. All right, so the next light we're going to be talking about is the sphere light. I'm going to go ahead and back up. Now, one of the main usages of this light that I use it for is really just like an ambient light. It kind of mimics like a light bulb. I can increase and decrease the radius of this, but what I usually use is to kind of just fill in some certain areas in my scene. Again, you can change intensity, color temperature, and additionally, there is a nice option in here that you can treat this as a point light, and that means that you're going to see that this point light right here is actually going to get smaller. So again, I'll show you that. If I click on this, treat as point, and disable that, you're going to see that we're going to have a lot more light right here. But if we click it, the radius of it is just going to shrink just a tad. So you can actually use this like a point light. All right, so with that being said, as you can see, we do have a lot of lighting options inside NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima that you can use. Okay, so the next feature we're going to be taking a look at is the audio to gesture. Like I mentioned earlier, what this is going to let you do is create body animation with just using your audio file. Now, to get started, let's go ahead and open up a sample environment. So I'm going to go to samples and just use this VR stage. I'll just say don't save, and this is going to load up our stage. The first thing we'll do is actually hide these assets right here. Now, unfortunately, I can't delete this, so I'm going to go ahead and hide it so we're not seeing this. Additionally, we're going to go ahead and create another character from the Shadow Warrior 3, and we'll just drag and drop it to the scene. We'll reset the transforms, and we will also reset the rotation. Okay. Again, I'm holding my right mouse button and just pressing WASD. Next, we will go to the top menu and go to Animation, and then click on Audio to Gesture. We'll be using the A2G offline pipeline. And what that's going to do is create a skeleton, which you're going to see on the floor. Additionally, what that's going to do is open up a new window for us on the right side. So let's go ahead and check it out right here in the top right corner. We're going to have Audio to Gesture. Now, under the Audio to Gesture window, you're going to see that we can import our own file in here. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to use the default one. Additionally, if you want to mess around with more examples, you can click this drop down and you're going to have a lot more voices in there that you can mess around with. The next thing we're going to do is change the target skeleton to our character. In this case, is going to be Motoko root. And after that, we're going to click on this icon again, and we're going to say auto retarget. But basically what this is going to do is take the body animation from the skeleton that it created, and it's going to take it to the Motoko character right here. Next, all we have to do is run A2G.
The beige hue on the waters of the loch impressed all, including the French queen.
And that's pretty much it. That is how you generate body animation from an audio file. Additionally, you can mess around with more settings in here, but what I'm going to do next is just record this animation so that we can go ahead and render it out. So to do that, similarly to the post estimation, we can go ahead and click on record. And this is going to record that body animation in this destination path right here. So again, we will copy this, Control C, go to the content browser, and just paste it right here. And now we're going to see the take.usda. Similarly, we're going to go to stage. We're going to drag and drop Motoko into the sequencer and move it to the left. Again, pay attention to this frame count right here. Make sure this is not set to 0 or 1. Make sure you have enough time in there to actually play your animation. Next, what we'll do is just drag that animation into the sequencer. And now if I press play in the sequencer, you're going to see that Motoko is now animating. Now I do have other things animating in the background. So again, I'm going to click this and I'm just going to go ahead and hide it because we don't need to see that. Additionally, we can actually go ahead and delete the skeleton because we no longer need that as well. Now we just have the character. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and rewind it and then press play. Pretty amazing stuff. So the next thing we're going to be doing is creating a camera for this. Now there are a couple of ways to create a camera. The first way is going to create a camera. Additionally, we can just go to the camera tab and then create from view. What that's going to do is create a camera from our viewport right here. So let's go ahead and position this camera to where we want it. Now I kind of want like a head and shoulder shot, even though her hair is super crazy. And with the camera selected, I'm going to go ahead and scroll this up so you can see more settings. We can go ahead and change some parameters. For the focal length, we can go with a prime 50. And then what I'll do is set the focus distance to the character. And to do that, I'm going to click on this double play icon. I'm going to click on this little target icon, and we're just going to point at the character, and that's going to automatically focus that camera to our character here. Now, obviously, there are a lot more parameters you can change. Additionally, you can animate the camera. You can animate settings. But for the sake of this tutorial, what I'm going to show you next is how to render the sequence. To do that, we'll click on Window. We're going to go to Rendering, and we're going to say Movie Capture. And what that's going to do is open up the movie capture settings. I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger so everybody can see. The movie type is going to be a sequence. For the camera, I'm going to set the camera that we just created, which is the stage camera. I'm going to set our frame rate to 30 frames per second because that's what we have down here in the editor. Let's go ahead and change this to 30 FPS. Now for the capture range, I don't want it to capture the entire 1620 frames. We really just want entire animation, so maybe about 260. After that, you can set your custom resolution, or if you want, you can just set it to HD, which is 1920 by 1080 with 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Additionally, you can change the render preset from real time to path tracing if that's what you want. But for the sake of this one, we're just going to go ahead and stick with real time. Once that's done, you can go ahead and choose your folder where you want this animation to be saved to. Name it if you want. And additionally, you can change the file type from PNG to TGA, EXR, or MP4. And once you're happy with all those parameters, all you have to do next is just say capture sequence. And now that's going to render your sequence for you. But with that being said, ladies and gents, that is pretty much it for this video. In this video, I taught you how to install NVIDIA Omniverse Machinima and pretty much taught you how to create your very first animation. Thank you for watching. If y'all have any questions, let me know, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.